Welcome all. In this video, we are going to discuss ME8071 refrigeration and air conditioning. This video is prepared by Department of Mechanical Engineering, Professors M. Balamurugan and Professor Seba Karthi. As a continuation of this subject, we are going to see Unit 3, Other Refrigeration Systems. That is, working principles of vapor absorption system and absorption cooling systems. Next, steam jet refrigeration, ejector refrigeration systems, thermoelectric refrigerations, air refrigeration, vortex and pulse tube refrigeration system. First, we are going to see vapor absorption refrigeration system. The principle of vapor absorption refrigeration system was firstly discovered by the famous scientist Michael Faraday. Vapor absorption refrigeration system belong to the class of vapor cycles similar to vapor compression refrigeration systems. We already discussed about vapor refrigeration systems in previous unit. So, however, unlike vapor compression refrigeration system, the required input to absorption system is in the form of heat. So, the vapor absorption system uses heat energy instead of mechanical energy as in vapor compression system. There we used a mechanical compressor, but we are going to use the energy in the form of heat. So, this is one of the major difference between vapor compression and vapor absorption refrigeration system. Hence, this system are also called as heat operated or thermal energy driven system. So, if you take the vapor absorption refrigeration system, what is the special thing as compared to vapor compression refrigeration system is the refrigerant. Since the conventional absorption system uses natural refrigerants such as water or ammonia, and they are eco-friendly too. So, in case of vapor compression refrigeration system, we are using some organic refrigerant which will cause damage to our environment system. So, in vapor absorption system, the refrigerant are environmentally friendly. So, similar to vapor compression refrigeration systems, since these systems run on low grade thermal energy, so they are preferred when low grade energy such as waste heat or solar energy is available. So, in case in vapor compression refrigeration system, we want electrical power to run the mechanical compressor, but here the thermal energy is sufficient. So, how vapor compression refrigeration system differs from vapor absorption refrigeration system? So, this picture show the difference between vapor compression refrigeration system and vapor absorption refrigeration system. So, as we already discussed, in vapor absorption refrigeration system, the mechanical compressor is replaced with a set of generator, absorber, expansion device and pump. So, this is the elaborated simple vapor absorption system diagram. If you see this, you can identify a evaporator, a condenser, a absorber, a liquid pump, a vapor generator. So, in this system, in this simple vapor absorption system, the low pressure ammonia vapor leaving the evaporator enters the absorber, where it is absorbed by the cold water in the absorber. The water has the ability to absorb very large quantities of ammonia vapor and the solution. Thus formed is known as aqua ammonia. So the mixture of water and ammonia is called aqua ammonia. The absorption of ammonia vapor in water lowers the pressure in absorber, which in turn draws more ammonia vapor from the evaporator and thus raises the temperature of solution. So this is how the temperature of solution rises. So some form of cooling arrangement. Usually we are using water as a cooling arrangement in this vapor absorption system. So the cooling arrangement is employed in the absorber to remove the heat from the solution evolved there. This is necessary in order to increase the absorption capacity of water, because at higher temperature water absorbs less ammonia vapor. The strong solution thus formed in the absorber is pumped to the generator by the liquid pump. The pump increases the pressure of the solution up to 10 bar. So the strong solution of ammonia in the generator is heated by some external source such as gas or steam or solar, you can say. During the heating process, the ammonia vapor is driven off the solution at higher pressure, leaving behind the hot weak ammonia solution in the generator. This weak ammonia solution then flows back to the absorber at lower pressure after passing through the pressure reducing valve. The high pressure ammonia vapor from the generator is now condensed in the condenser to a high pressure liquid ammonia. So the latent heat is removed. This liquid ammonia is passed to the expansion valve through the receiver and then the evaporator. So this is the complete cycle of vapor absorption cycle. So this is how the refrigerant is cycled in vapor absorption system. So as we discussed earlier, the working principle of vapor absorption refrigeration system. A simple vapor absorption system consists of evaporator, absorber, generator, condenser, expansion valve, pump and reducing valve. In this system, ammonia is used as refrigerant and solution is used is aqua ammonia. So we already discussed what is aqua ammonia and why ammonia is used as refrigerant, because ammonia is eco-friendly. Strong solution of aqua ammonia contains as much as ammonia as it can, and weak solution contains less ammonia. So strong solution will have more amount and weak solution will have less amount. The compressor of vapor compressor system is replaced by an absorber, generator, reducing valve and pump. This point we already discussed. The heat flow in the system at generator and work is supplied to the pump. Ammonia vapors coming out of the evaporator are drawn into the absorber. So all these things are we discussed in earlier slide. That is in that schematic diagram of simple vapor absorption system. The weak solution containing very little ammonia is spread in the absorber. The released vapor is passed to condenser and weak solution to the absorber through a reducing valve. Thus the function of compressor is done by a absorber, a generator, pump and reducing valve. The weak solution absorbs ammonia and gets converted into the strong solution. The strong solution from absorber is pumped into the generator. So all these points are regarding to simple vapor absorption system. Now let us move to the practical vapor absorption system and how it differs from simple vapor absorption system. So this is the diagram of practical vapor absorption system. The simple absorption system, as we discussed in earlier, is not very economical. In order to make the system more practical, it is filled with an analyzer, a rectifier and two heat exchangers. These accessories help to improve the performance and working of the plant also. So let us try to understand all these things. What is an analyzer, a rectifier, and a heat exchanger? Heat exchanger, we already aware about the heat exchangers. First, try to understand what is analyzer. Analyzer. When ammonia is vapored in the generator, some water is also vaporized and fill into the condenser along with the ammonia vapors in the simple system. If these unwanted water particles are not removed before entering into the condenser, they will enter into the expansion valve, which is not desired, where they freeze and choke the pipeline also. So the circulating of the refrigerant will be get affected. In order to remove these unwanted particles flowing into the condenser, an analyzer is used. So the main purpose of analyzer is to remove the unwanted water particles. The analyzer may be built as an integral part of a generator or made as a separate piece of equipment also. It consists of a series trays mounted above the generator. The strong solution from the absorber and the aqua from the rectifier are introduced at the top of the analyzer and flow downward from the trays one by one into the generator. In this way, considerable liquid surface area is exposed to the vaporizing from the generator. So, in this way, the vapor is cooled and most of the water vapor condenses. So, that the mainly ammonia vapor is leaves to the top of the analyzer. Since aqua is heated by the vapor, less external heat is required to the generator. So, this is how the analyzer actually works. So, if you notice the slide, all these points are regarding to the analyzers. Next, we will move to rectifier. What is rectifier and why it is used in practical vapor absorption refrigeration system? So, in case the water vapors are not completely removed in the analyzer, a closed type of vapor cooler called rectifier is also used. Sometimes some people call it as a dehydrator. It's generally water cooled and maybe double pipe also, or cell coil or cell and tube type also. Its function is to cool further ammonia vapor leaving the analyzer so that the remaining water vapors are condensed. Thus, the only dry or anhydrous ammonia you can say flow into the condenser. The condensate from the rectifier is returned to the top of the analyzer by a drip return pipe or a exit pipe you can say. So next is a heat exchanger. The heat exchanger provided between the pump and the generator. If you see, notice the first slide, the diagram of practical vapor absorption refrigeration system, you can see the location of heat exchanger. So it is used to cool the weak hot solution returning from the generator to the absorber. The heat removed from the weak solution raises the temperature of the strong solution, leaving the pump and going to analyzer and generator. So this operation reduces the heat supplied to the generator and the amount of cooling required for the absorber. Thus the economy of the plant is increases. So the main purpose we already discussed is to reduce the cost. So that is achieved using heat exchangers. So this is how the heat exchanger is worked in vapor absorption refrigeration system. So let us try to analyze few things regarding vapor absorption system. The maximum COP of ideal absorption system. So before going into the derivation, let Qg is the amount of heat given to the refrigerant in generator and Qc is heat rejected from absorber and condenser. QE is heat absorbed by the refrigerant in the evaporator. QP is heat added to refrigerant due to pump work. and Tg, Tc, Te are corresponding temperatures in generator, condenser and evaporator. So neglecting the heat due to pump work, we have, according to first law of thermodynamics, we will say Qc equal to Qg plus Qe. We already discussed what is Qc, Qg and Qe. Since the vapor absorption system can be considered as perfectly reversible system, therefore the initial entropy of the system must be equal to the entropy of the system after the change in its condition. So if you observe the derivation, you will end up with the maximum COP of the system is given by is equal to QE divided by QG, that is equal to, in terms of temperature, TE divided by TC minus TE into TG minus TC divided by TG. So this is the final result of maximum COP of ideal vapor absorption refrigeration system. So if you observe this final expression, the first thing, that is the TE divided by TC minus TE is the COP of a Carnot refrigerator working between the temperature limits of TE and TC. And if you notice the second term, that is TG minus TC divided by TG, is the efficiency of Carnot engine working between the temperature limits of TG and TC. So first one is the for Carnot refrigerator and second one is for a Carnot engine. So this is the beauty of this final expression. So this is the equivalent thermodynamic model. If you observe, Tg is the temperature of heat source, that is the generator, and the T0, it is the temperature of condenser and absorber, and Te is the temperature of refrigeration, that is the evaporator. Now let us try to compare between vapor compression system and vapor absorption system. We already discussed so many points regarding this topic. Let's try to summarize those things. So first one is a vapor compression system comparing with vapor absorption system. In vapor compression system has more wear and tear and produce more noise, that is due to the moving parts of compressor. So if you come to vapor absorption system, only moving part in this system is aqua pump, hence the quieter in operation and less wear and tear also. The electric power is needed to drive the system because we are using in vapor compression system, we are using a compressor. But if you come to vapor absorption system, a waste, low grade or solar power can be used. So there is no need of electric power. In vapor compression system, the COP is more, but in vapor absorption system, the COP is less. In vapor compression system, partial load performance is poor. At partial load performance is not affected. Mechanical energy is supplied through a compressor. Heat energy is utilized in vapor absorption system. Charging of refrigerating to the system is very easily. We can fill the refrigerant with a simple open valve. But the charging of refrigerant in vapor absorption system is very difficult. Energy supplied is quarter to half of the refrigerating effect. Energy supplied is about 1.5 times of refrigerating effect in vapor absorption system. So these are the things, main difference between vapor compression system and vapor absorption system. Let's move to the next topic called lithium bromide absorption refrigeration system. So this is also a type of refrigeration system. Let's see what is it. The lithium bromide absorption refrigeration system uses a solution of lithium bromide in your water. So in this system, if you see in this system, the water is being used as refrigerant, whereas lithium bromide, which is a highly hygroscopic salt, as an absorbent. So lithium bromide is an absorbent. The special thing about the lithium bromide solution has a very strong affinity for water vapor because of its very low vapor pressure. Since lithium bromide solution is corrosive, therefore inhibitors should be added in order to protect the metal parts of the system against the corrosion. So lithium bromide is often used as a corrosion inhibitor. The system is very popular for air conditioning, in which low refrigeration temperature are required. So this is the typical diagram of lithium bromide absorption refrigeration system. Let's try to understand how the lithium bromide vapor absorption system is working. In this system, the absorber and the evaporator are placed in one cell, which operates at the same low pressure of the system. You can see two cells here, right over one is top, another one is at bottom. The generator and condenser are placed in another cell, which operate at high pressure. The water for air conditioning coils or process requirement is chilled as it is pumped through the chilled water tubes in the evaporator by giving up to heat refrigerant water sprayed over the tube. Since the pressure inside the evaporator is maintained at very low, therefore the refrigerant water gets evaporates. The water vapors thus formed will be absorbed by the strong lithium bromide solution, which is sprayed in the absorber. In absorbing the water vapor, the lithium bromide solution helps in maintaining very low pressure, that is a high vacuum needed in the evaporator, and the solution becomes weak. This weak solution is then pumped into the pump to the generator, where it is heated up by using steam or hot water by means of heating coils. A portion of water is evaporated by the heat, and the solution now becomes more strong, you can say. This strong solution is passed through the heat exchangers. You can see a heat exchanger, and then sprayed in absorber as discussed above. As already discussed, the weak solution of lithium bromide from the absorber to generator is also passed through the heat exchanger. This solution gets heat from the strong solution in the heat exchanger, thus reducing the quantity of steam required to heat the weak solution in the generator. The pressure difference between the generator and the absorber and the gravity due to the height difference between the two cells is utilized to create the pressure for the spray also. The refrigerant water vapors formed in the generator due to the heating of solution are passed through the condenser, where they are cooled and condensed by the cooling water flowing through the condenser water tubes. The cooling water for condensing is pumped from the cooling water or tower. This cooling water first enters the absorber where it takes away the heat of condensation and dilution. The condensate from the condenser is supplied to the evaporator to compensate the water vapor formed in the evaporator. The pressure reducing valve reduces the pressure of condensate from the condenser pressure to the evaporator pressure. The cooled water from the evaporator is pumped and sprayed in the evaporator in order to cool the water for air conditioning flowing through the chilled tubes. So this thing completes the cycle. So these are the some important points regarding lithium bromide absorption refrigeration system. Next is a absorption cooling system. So this is a simple cooling system used to cool the area. So let's try to understand how absorption cooling system actually works. Absorption cooling is a thermally driven refrigeration system which can be powered by a solar energy as well as waste heat also. The use of thermal driven system helps to reduce the carbon dioxide emission from the combustion of fossil fuels in the power plants. Another advantage for absorption systems compared with the conventional vapor compression is the working fluid is used. The absorption system mainly uses a natural working fluid such as water which have zero ozone depletion potential. Like in a vapor compression system, the absorption refrigeration system also consists of a compressor, condenser, expansion and an evaporator. If you see this diagram, you can see the all things: a condenser chamber, a evaporator chamber, and the flow of cold and hot waters, and absorption chamber 1 and chamber 2, and you can see the circulation of cold water right to the bottom of the arrangement. Like in a vapor compression system, the absorption refrigeration system also consists of the compressor, condenser, expansion valve and an evaporator. However, the compressor is an absorption system is replaced by the thermal compressor, which is operated by heat instead of mechanical energy. The vaporized refrigerant is absorbed in the pores of the absorbent in the reaction chamber. During the first phase of the operation, the refrigerant is evaporated at low pressure and low temperature in the evaporator and is absorbed by refrigerant under isobaric condition. In the next phase, the charged refrigerant is regenerated by the heating up. So next we are going to discuss about the advantages of vapor absorption system. Compared to the vapor compression refrigeration system, absorption system have the following advantages. They can be driven by waste heat and low grade heat such as solar energy. They use environmentally friendly fluids such as water, ammonia as a refrigerant. So these points are we already discussed. Next, let us try to solve few problems based on vapor absorption refrigeration system. So this is the statement of the problem. In a vapor absorption refrigeration system, heating, cooling and refrigeration takes place at a temperature of 100, 20 and minus 5 degrees centigrade respectively. Find the maximum COP of the system. So we already know the relation for the maximum COP. If you substitute all the temperature values, you will end up with the answer of 2.3. So this is a simple numerical problem based on vapor absorption system. So after solving the numerical, we are going to see one more refrigeration system that is called steam jet refrigeration system. So the steam jet refrigeration is also called as ejector refrigeration system. It is the one of the oldest method of producing refrigerating effect. The basic components of this system are an evaporator, a compression device, a condenser, and refrigeration control valve. Here water is used as refrigerant. It is used in food industries, paper mills, gas plants, etc. So let's try to understand how the working of steam refrigeration system actually. High pressure steam is supplied to the nozzle from the boiler and is expanded. Here the water vapor organized from the flash chamber is entrained with the high velocity steam jet and it is further compressed in the thermocompressor. Let's try to understand from the diagram. So this is the actual working setup. So you can see the various parts like nozzle, ejector, steam pipes, boilers, cooling water pumps, and condenser, a refrigerating space, a warm water supply, a sprayer, a chilled water unit, a flash chamber or evaporator, etc. So the flash chamber or evaporator is a large vessel and is heavily insulated to avoid the rise in temperature of water due to high ambient temperature. It is also fitted with the pipes for spraying the water. The warm water coming out from the refrigerated space is sprayed into the flash water chamber where some which is converted into vapors after absorbing the latent heat, thereby cooling the rest of water. You can see the spray of chilled water from the diagram. The high pressure steam from the boiler is passed through the steam nozzles, thereby increasing its velocity. This high velocity steam is in the ejector would entrain the water vapors from the flash chamber, which would result in further formation of vapors. The mixture of steam and pressure of the mixture rises considerably and fed to the water cooled condenser where it gets condensed. The condensate is again fed to the boiler as feed water. A constant water level is maintained in the flash chamber and any loss of water due to evaporation is made up from the makeup water line. So this is how the steam refrigeration system actually works. So generally 1% of evaporation of water in the flash chamber is sufficient to decrease the temperature of chilled water to 60 degrees centigrade. The chilled water in the flash chamber is circulated by the pump to the point of application. The warm water from the load is returned to the flash chamber. The water is sprayed through the nozzles to provide maximum surface area for cooling. So these are the points regarding the working of steam jet refrigeration system. Let us try to understand about a steam ejector. A special device used in steam jet refrigeration system is a steam ejector. Let us try to understand how the steam ejector is working. So if you observe the diagram, you can see the parts of steam ejectors like nozzle throat, steam nozzle, a diffuser throat, a diffuser, a suction flange, a nozzle plate, suction chamber, steam chest and steam inlet also. You can say the discharge flange at the other end of the steam ejector. So the steam ejector, if you talk about the steam ejector is the one of the important components of steam jet refrigeration system. It is used to compress the water vapors coming out from the flash chamber. It uses the energy of fast moving steam jet to entrain the vapors from the flash chamber and then compress it. The high pressure steam from the boiler, generally called you can primary fluid or motive steam also, that motive steam expands while flowing through the convergent or convergent divergent nodule. The expansion causes a very low pressure. Due to the expansion, the pressure gets very low and increase the velocity of steam. Reduce the pressure is compensated with the velocity increase. The steam attains very high velocity in the range of 1000 to 1350 meter per second. The nozzle are designed for lowest operating pressure ratio between nozzle throat and exit. The nozzle pressure ratio of less than 200 are undesirable because the poor ejector efficiency when operating at low steam pressure. The water vapors from the flash chamber are entrained by the high velocity steam and both are mixed in the mixing section at constant pressure. The mean velocity of the mixture will be supersonic after mixing it completely. This supersonic steam gets a normal soak in the constant area throat of diffuser. So this result in the rise in pressure and subsonic flow. The function of the diverging portion of diffuser is to recover the velocity head as pressure head by gradually reducing the velocity. So this is how the working of steam ejector actually in the steam refrigeration system. So these are the all points regarding steam ejector, and we will discuss about the advantages also. It is a flexible operation, cooling capacity can be easily and quickly changed. It has no moving parts, so there will be no vibration also. It can be installed to outer of doors. The weight of the system per ton of refrigerating capacity is less. If you have very less amount of support for weight, you can go to this system. The system is very reliable and maintenance cost is also very low. It have some disadvantages also. The use of direct evaporation to produce chilled water is usually limited as tremendous volume of vapor is to be handled. About twice as much heat must be removed in the condenser of steam jet per ton of refrigeration compared with the vapor compression system. The system is useful for comfort air conditioning, but it is not practically feasible for water temperature below 14 degrees centigrade. Next, we are going to discuss about thermoelectric refrigeration. It is another domain of refrigeration which have few interesting things. Let's try to understand thermoelectric refrigeration. So the thermoelectric refrigeration. Thermoelectric cooling uses the Peltier effect. We will see what is Peltier effect to create a heat flux between junctions of two different types of material. We are studying about the Peltier effect from our high school physics. This effect is commonly used in camping and portable coolers and for cooling electronic components and small instrumentations. Applying a DC voltage difference across the thermoelectric module, an electric current will be passed through the module and heat will be absorbed from one side and released to the opposite side. So one module phase therefore will be cooled while the opposite simultaneously get heat. On the other hand, maintaining a temperature difference between the two junctions of the module, a voltage difference will be generated across the module and an electrical power is delivered. So Peltier effect. The Peltier effect is the main contributor to all thermoelectric cooling applications. It is responsible for heat removal and heat absorbance. It states that when an electric current flows across two dissimilar conductors, the junction of the conductors will either absorb or emit heat depending on the flow of electric current. So, the heat absorbed or released at the junction is proportional to the input electric current. The constant of proportionality is called a Peltier coefficient. So this is how the thermoelectric refrigeration system gets worked. You can see the two sides. One is heat absorbed, that is cold side, and another is a rejection side, that is hot side. There are, you can see the two type of semiconductors also, P type and N type. So the most efficient configuration is where a P and N type component is put electrically in series but thermally in parallel. You can see the arrangement here, electrically series and thermally parallel. The device to the right is called a couple. One side is attached to a heat source and another to a sink side. The side facing the heat source is considered the cold side and the side facing the heat sink the hot side. So the advantages of thermoelectric effect are, you can see small size, lightweight, compact and reliable, steady state operation, no moving parts and fluids, durable, maintenance free and very long life operation also. If you consider the limitations, it have able to dissipate limited amount of heat flux, lower COP as compared to vapor compression systems and relegated to low heat flux applications. So next one is the air refrigeration cycle. So in air refrigeration cycle, air refrigerator worked on a reversed Brayton cycle. We already know about what is a Brayton cycle. So air refrigerator worked on a reversed Brayton cycle. This is an important cycle frequently employed in gas cycle refrigeration system. This may be thought of as a modification of reversed Carnot cycle, as two isothermal process of Carnot cycle is replaced by isobaric heat transfer process. This cycle is also called Joule or Bell-Coleman cycle. Air refrigeration cycle systems belong to the general class of gas cycle refrigeration system, in which a gas is used as a working fluid. The gas does not undergo any phase change during the cycle. Consequently, all the internal heat transfer process are sensible heat transfer process. So there will be no phase change of the refrigerant. Gas cycle refrigeration system find applications in aircraft due to the lightweight and cabin cooling and also in a liquefaction of various gases. So this is the arrangement of ideal reverse Brayton cycle. You can see the two heat exchangers. One will absorb the heat from cold region and another will absorb or reject the heat from hot region, and a turbine and a compressor. So PV and TS diagrams of reversed Brayton cycle. You can see the process of isentropic expansion and compression and heat rejected at constant pressures. So this is the PV and TS diagram. You can see this is an anti-clockwise cycle. So this one is maybe must be a power consuming cycle. We already know that all the clockwise cycles are power producing cycles and all other anti-clockwise cycles are power consuming cycles. So refrigeration is a power consuming cycle. So ideal reversed Brayton cycle. The ideal reversed Brayton cycle consists of the following four processes. Process 1 to 2 is a reversible adiabatic compression in compressor, and process 2 to 3 reversible isobaric heat rejection in heat exchanger, and process 3 to 4 reversible adiabatic expansion in a turbine, and process 4 to 1 is a reversible isobaric heat absorption in heat exchanger. So if you discussed about the COP of ideal reversed Brayton cycle, first from the process 1 to 2, gas at low pressure is compressed isentropically from state 1 to state 2. So you can see the isentropic compression here, state 1 to state 2. This is isentropic compression. And applying steady flow energy equation and neglecting changes in kinetic and potential energy, we can write work 1 to 2 is equal to m into h2 minus h1, that will equal to mcp t2 minus t1. We already know that process 1 to 2 is a isentropic process, so the entropy at point 1 must be equal to entropy at point 2. If you talk about the temperature relations, the T2 equal to T1 into P2 by P1 the whole power gamma minus 1 divided by gamma, where the pressure ratio Rp is equal to P2 by P1. So process 2 to 3 is hot and high pressure gas flows through a heat exchanger and rejects heat sensibly and isobarically to heat sink. The enthalpy and temperature of gas drop during the process due to heat exchange. No work transfer takes place and the entropy of the gas decreases. Again, applying the steady flow energy equation and second TDS equation, you can see Q is equal to M into H2 minus H1 equal to M into Cp T2 minus T3. So H2 minus H3 equal to Cp into ln T2 by 3. So P2 is equal to P3. So since the process 2 to 3 is a isobaric process. If you discussed about process 3 to 4, high pressure gas from the heat exchanger flows through a turbine, undergoes isentropic expansion and delivers net work output. The temperature of gas drops during the process from T2 to T3 to T4. From steady flow energy equations, if you calculate the work and the temperature relations for process 3 to 4, and you can also calculate the pressure ratio for process 3 to 4. And process 4 to 1 is a cold and low pressure gas from the turbine flows through the low temperature heat exchanger and extracts heat sensibly and isobarically from the heat source, providing useful refrigeration effect. The enthalpy and temperature of gas rise during the process due to the heat exchange. No work transfer takes place and the entropy of the gas also increase. So these are the amount of heat and the entropy and pressure relation for process 4 to 1. So these are the relations for temperature and entropy, the COP. Finally, we are ended with the COP, that is heat rejected, that is the refrigerant effect to the net work input. In terms of temperature, we can write it like this also. If you replace with the pressure ratio, this will be the final answer. So next is a vortex tube or pulse tube refrigeration system. You can see the arrangement of vortex tube refrigeration. So how the vortex tube refrigeration system works? It consists of a nozzle, a diaphragm, valve, hot air side, cold air side. The nozzle are of converging or converging diverging type also used. An efficient nozzle is designed to have a higher velocity, greater mass flow and minimum inlet losses. Chamber is a portion of nozzle that facilitates the tangential entry of high velocity air stream into the hot side. Vortex tube refrigeration, generally the chambers are not of circular form, but they are gradually converted into spiral casings. Hot side is a cylindrical in cross section and it is of different lengths as per the design. Wall obstructs the flow of air through hot side and it is also controls the quantity of hot air through the vortex tube. Diaphragm is a cylindrical piece of small thickness and having a small hole of specific diameter at center. Air stream traveling through the core of the hot side is emitted through the diaphragm hole. Cold side is a cylindrical portion of through which cold air is passed. So this is the working of vortex tube refrigeration. Compressed air is passing through the nozzle. Here air expands and occurs high velocity due to particular shape of nozzle. A vortex flow is created in the chamber and air travels in spiral like motion along the periphery of the hot side. This flow is restricted by the valve. When the pressure of the air near valve is made more than outside, by partially closing the valve, a reversed axial flow through the core of the hot side starts from the higher pressure region to low pressure region. During this process, heat transfer takes place between reversed stream and forward stream. Therefore, air stream through the core region cooled below the inlet temperature of air in vortex tube, while air stream is forward direction gets heated up. The cold stream is escaped through the diaphragm hole into the cold side, while hot steam is passed through the opening of the valve. By controlling the opening of valve, the quantity of cold air and the temperature is also varied. So these are the some advantages of vortex tube refrigeration. Is used air refrigeration, no leakage problem, simple design, avoids control system. There will be no complicated control system. There will be no moving parts, no wear, no tear, no vibration. Light in weight, require less space also. Initial cost is low and working expenses are also less when compared to the where compressed air is readily available. Maintenance is similar, no skilled labor also required. So if you discuss about the limitation, it have very low COP, limited capacity, and only small portions of the compressed air applying as the cold air limit is while used in practice. So these are the points regarding the vortex tube refrigeration. So we are coming end of the unit 3. Thank you.